Hi, everybody. My name is Gerald Murray, and I will be presenting my research project on cancel culture. All right, so first up, what is cancel culture? Cancel culture or call out culture is the act of boycotting a person because of their problematic views or behavior. This is primarily done on social media websites like Twitter, Tumblr, and Facebook. But since I'm a Twitter user, most of the examples I will be using will be from a Twitter user's perspective. Uh, so cancel culture can both be seen as good and bad. It is seen as good and bad by both people, honestly, or both sides, honestly. Um, the ways it's good is that it's a way of holding people accountable for their actions. Two people that really come to mind when I think of this are Kevin Spacey and Harvey Weinstein. And of course, people know them for their involvement in Hollywood and the sexual assault charges that have been raised against them. Um, but cancel culture also keeps people informed about the people they follow. But when I say people they follow, I mean people with platforms, because it's better to call attention to people who have an audience than just random people online. Uh, Usually, it's more effective when you're calling out people who have a platform, who have people who will listen to them. Um, But the bad parts about it is it incites mob mentality and can be taken out of context. Um, and what I mean by mob mentality is uh, somebody can take something that you say or tweet out of context and essentially quote tweet it and then add their own little narrative and spin to it in their quote. So essentially, what'll happen at that point is, they'll share it with their followers, and then their followers will share it, and then their followers will share it, and it'll get a bunch of likes and retweets and all that other kind of stuff. And then you have a bunch of people in your inbox claiming that you're a terrible person. You'll receive death threats. You'll receive, people just trying because it's the internet, and if people find out that you're a bad person, you will get, those trolls out there who will try and make your life a living hell. Um, it can cause damage to reputations, it can ruin relationships, and it can even result in the loss of a job. Uh, uh, a prime example that comes to mind right now is actually an ongoing case that I talked about earlier in the year. Victor Mignana, who was accused of sexual assault by one of his coworkers, and with really little to no evidence backing it up. But because this was really because this was presented online instead of handled privately behind closed doors, you know, there was a lot of media coverage and internet coverage, and a lot of people on the internet got to form their own opinion first. So essentially, this was handled by the court of public opinion before it was handled by an actual court. Um, so uh, in our research, we were tasked with asking a few questions, and these were mine. The first question, once I looked at it again, I ended up realizing that I left out an important detail. But the question is, do you believe that someone should be fired for posts, comments, or views that could be seen as offensive or problematic? What I meant to add on at the end of that is regardless of how old they are, essentially saying that even even if the posts were made when someone was a child, do you believe that they should still be fired for the actions that they made when they were, you know, uninformed or immature, an unchanged person? But the answers I got right now don't surprise me really. Um, 78%, 78.3% of you answered that yes, you should, and 21.7% of you answered no, you shouldn't. Both sides are very valid, and both sides are very valid in answering whichever way you did. And the other one is, do you believe that sexual assault allegations against men or women should be assumed true even without evidence? 8.7% of you answered yes, while 91.3% of you answered no. And again, both of those sides have valid opinions, and I understand why you answered both. Most of the people who answered no had the reasoning of, because I asked why, most of the people who answered no had the reasoning of they needed substantial evidence to be able to put their belief in somebody, which is a very good thing to believe. But the people who answered yes also said that it's good to believe victims because most often they're not lying, and false rape accusations are in fact very rare. My personal opinion, I just believe that whatever you're told, whether it be a false rape whether it be a rape accusation or something you hear through the grapevine, just take it with a grain of salt. It's the same way you'd handle fake news. Do your own research and come to your own conclusions. Just think for yourself. Don't let other people tell you how to think. Some interesting things that I learned when I was doing my research for this. Rape statistics were being presented as 2% of rape accusations are false. But doing a little bit more digging and finding a study that was done in 2010, a more accurate representation of this statistic is at least 2 to 10% of rape accusations reported to the police are false. And as it says, reported to the police, this does not include the ones that are not reported to the police. But there's also another interesting thing about this is it does not mean that the resulting 90%, if we're going from 10, the resulting 90% are true. That doesn't mean that they're true. It just, we don't know. We don't know because there are certain other circumstances at play. We don't know if that. You never know if the evidence could have been dropped or, they couldn't have found enough evidence to support either side. Yeah. And cancel culture is a minor issue, but still a rather serious one. What I mean by that is you can kind of go your whole life without knowing that cancel culture existed. And you would be none the wiser. You'd kind of be better. In my opinion, you'd personally be better off. But if you have, been around cancel culture or seen it in action, you would know that it is a very serious issue because it does incite. It, like I said before, it does incite mob mentality and incites, people to act first and think later, rather than to look at the grander scale of things. They instead look at this one specific tidbit that some person that they either follow or somebody retweeted. They just look at that, and then they don't get the whole picture, and so they fall into this trap of, oh, this person's bad, so let me like and share instead of doing my own research. To answer the question of if this were to be published, I'd say it'd probably do well as being a blog, just like a blog post, just like all the other ones that all the other articles that I've seen online. They're just usually blog posts or things like that. I would honestly like it if this went a little bit deeper because it is a serious issue that people do need to start, taking a little bit more seriously and start thinking about. Both good and bad aspects to cancel culture exist. And I think that's it at 10 minutes. Thank you guys for coming to my TED Talk. And